from. Tell your girl she can kick it if she wants some, but we got no time to waste.
Welcome to 4AZ. I'm your host, Tyler McDowell Blanken. I am back with two of my ride or dies. That's right. You've heard these two. You've seen them before, but they have joined forces and are joining me for our latest Abbott Elementary 2-pack recap. I have Sarah Beth. I have Mike Steph. How are you two?
Doing good. I don't know who's going to start here.
Oh, no, ladies
This
first.
is new
Ladies
for it.
first.
Yeah, this is new for it. Yeah. Sarah Beth, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Ready for spring break is where I'm at right now.
It's been a journey.
Wow.
It's been a
It's
journey.
been a journey. We've got a week till spring break. I love my kids, but I need them to go away for a week so that they can come back and I can continue to love them. Yeah, it is out of love.
Sarah Beth doing amazing work for third graders in Marana. Follow her at Dear Sarah Beth. Mike Steph, how you been? Fill us in. What's going on in Brooklyn?
I'm doing all right. You know, her comment about, she loves the kids, but she's ready for a break. That kind of fits me to a T, but not really with school. So, but neither here nor there. No, but besides that, I'm doing good. You know, just finished celebrating the missus' birthday, a monumental, milestone birthday. Listen, I'm not gonna be non-gentlemanly and divulge her age, but it was one of those. So I'm doing great. I had a lot of time off, and now I'm back on the full-time grind until sometime this summer. So that kind of deflated real quick.
That did. But we're gonna get the vibes back up. Follow Mike at Mike_Steph. Our happy belated birthday wishes to the Mrs. Mike. Okay, you two, you know what we're here for. Abbott Elementary Talk. On this episode, we are going to recap episodes 15 and 16. We're going to talk fan theories and make some predictions. And of course, we will close with an exit ticket. All right, to get us started, episode 15, the 100th day of school. A quick description of this episode. On the 100th day of school, the students put on a celebration and dress up as centenarians. Between them calling the teachers old and Barbara's daughter announcing she's pregnant, Barbara stresses about getting older. Meanwhile, Jacob loses Melissa's hamster sweet cheeks. We have two huge Melissa Chimenti fans on this episode. We will talk about her. I am sure of it. And they team up with Mr. Johnson to find him before the step team performance. Okay, you two, this episode's cold open is Jacob using novellas to teach his students Spanish. There's a boy who makes a Narcos reference. We can start wherever you want to. We can give our sort of overall thoughts on this episode. We can begin with the cold open. I want to start wherever you do. Sarah Beth, episode 15, 100th day of school. What say you?
The cold open was good. I almost felt like having the littles come in dressed for the 100th day would have been such a good cold open with that little Margaret who was like, I'm you. And the little boy that was like, my arthritis is acting up. That was probably my favorite part of the whole episode. And just poor Barbara. Because, man, these kids will hurt your feelings and, not even mean to.
Right. And I love the perspective of you two, Sarah Beth, you from the educator lens, Mike Steph, you being the amazing dad of several amazing children. I absolutely agree with you, Sarah Beth. We've talked about it all season, for better or worse. Kids are going to tell you what's on their mind. And in Barbara's case in this episode, and really throughout the season, it's been, oh man, I've been doing this for a while, teaching. I'm getting up there. My daughter, I want to be a grandma. What are they going to call me? Maybe they call me Glamma, half glamour, half grandma. This is a big question that we know has been on the horizon for her.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Mike Steph, what say you about this episode?
Overall, we was talking about off air. This episode, and I'm going to talk about the following one. It seemed like it was such a departure from the last couple episodes leading up to this, because they were kind of more serious based. You had the strike, you had the district episode. So for them to start with a cold open, because the cold open is pretty much always for laughs, but it had nothing to do with the actual episode whatsoever. Because it was basically around the kindergarten class about Barbara and celebrating the 100th day. But also the fact that we ended up ended on such like a cliffhanger of they went to the district meeting and they was told, okay, you got what you wanted, but guess what? Now you're going to be under such scrutiny, and then for it to just kind of delve into this, it was cute, it was fine, but it seems like it was disconnected from the buildup that we was accustomed to. So, yeah, that was my feelings. Like the prior 2 episodes was so, was so incremental. It's just that this kind of, it didn't fall flat, but it didn't reach my expectations.
Is the 100th day of school celebration a thing?
Not like, well, in Arizona, it's not like it used to be. I can't speak for other states because the 100th day, do you know where that like originated and why it was such a big deal when we were growing up? So the 100th day is when they used to audit the schools for attendance, and that would determine your funding. Yeah, that's how they would determine how many kids are present. So then how many per pupil do you have to pay? That's why the 100th day became such a big deal, because you need kids to be at school. Because the more kids at school, the more funding you're going to get. Arizona pulled away from that. I forget how many years ago. It's been since I started teaching, it's the last 10. So it's still like a thing. It's not as big for us because we're not trying to like entice kids. It's bigger for like our kinder first grade because like counting to 100 is one of their standards.
Okay.
But that's where it like originated, it was how you got your funding. So of course you want to entice. So if we make it a fun day where your kids want to come in, it's one of those things
like to dress up as their elders.
Which I do love, the like dressing up like you're 100. I think that is one of the best.
Margaret really a subtle MVP. We'll get to MVPs later. A subtle MVP of this.
Oh, she was great.
The kids are bringing it this whole season.
Because even at the beginning, when Barbara's daughter's calling her and she's like, "Help me, Jesus," and she goes, "I'm Margaret."
I'm Margaret.
I thought it was like,
okay, Margaret.
Yeah.
Margaret maximized her minutes, her seconds.
She really did. Like her and that little boy with the arthritis. Like,
yes,
they were so good.
This is the key. I hope everyone listening and watching recognizes this. This is the key to 4AZ. I bring on guests who are smarter than me. And then this leads to great conversations. Sarah Beth, thank you for the lesson there. Okay, I want to push back. You know how much I love you two. I must push back on both of your comments here because, see, this is the compliment sandwich. I compliment and then I push back. Before I do, Mike, Steph, please jump in.
Yeah. To piggyback on Sarah Beth with the, the historical reference, that to me actually proves even more why this episode should have been. You could have used that into the storyline of we just got the funding from the district and it's the 100th day, and actually educate the educate the public, educate the viewers for people. Like I had no idea that was the significance of the 100 days. That would have went nice and mixed perfectly. But say la vie. That's all.
Yeah, no, there could be a tie in there, like you said, Mike, and with any sitcom, especially one that's in its 4th season, you're going to have episodes that are newsworthy and are juicy, I guess, for lack of a better word. And then you're going to have others that are more setting up for later episodes. I do think episode 15 did that because I buried the lead. Oshawn and Ava.
Oshawn and Ava.
This is happening. This is our moment. We've been waiting. It's here. I can no longer wait for this discussion. I want to hear what both of you think. This is a big development from episode 15. I refer to it in my notes as the Oshawn episode. So he lets Greg know early on. Gregory. I don't know why I call him Greg. Greg is a character from Next Friday. Gregory, he says early on in the episode to him, he confides in him and says, "Hey, I think Ava's cute. I'm going to ask her out." And then insert Janine coming in. Janine is always lurking, it seems. She says, "Okay, well, you got to take her to a Michelin restaurant. Okay, maybe the movies, maybe mini golf, da-da-da." And then later on in the episode, we get the moment we've been waiting for. Oshawn is ready to approach Ava. Of course, Gregory and Janine are telling Oshawn, "Okay, we thought about it. Here's what you need to do. You need a helicopter." And Oshawn, listens to what they're saying. But then at some point, Gregory and Janine continue their brainstorming and they're going back and forth. And then Oshan just walks right into Ava's office and asks, I can't believe we got this, y'all. He asks Ava, you want to go on a date with me? Ava says, yes. He says, all right, I'll text you. And then that's it. Granted, this is incredibly unrealistic. I've certainly never experienced nor seen it come together that easily. But we know Sarah Beth, Mike, Steph, these two have been feeling each other for a long time. It's finally happening. Can I convince you that this is actually a very important episode, Sarah Beth?
Oh, absolutely. You can convince me from that standpoint. Absolutely. I loved when she was talking in the office where she's like, he's like asking me about my interests and hobbies. like she's so annoying.
And then what did she say, Sarah Beth? We have this in the notes. Then what did she say?
It was, I can't paraphrasing because I can't remember how she said, but it was like basically like, I want to tell him what I want to do to him.
Yeah. She said, Mike, Steph, feel free to jump in. I'm finding this right now.
Oh, you don't want me to jump in.
This is going to be a clip from this episode, guaranteed. Ava says, I don't want a man to ask about my interests or hobbies, just as you pointed out, Sarah Beth. That's boring. I want to know what he's going to do to me. I said, yo, Abbott has had these moments this season where they're really feeling themselves. They're like, yo, we got a built-in audience. It's a very diverse audience. We're just going to go for it on some of these, on this dialogue. This is one of those moments where I said, yo, Ava, talk your talk, but also, okay, this is a new vibe. Sarah Beth, please continue.
It's a new vibe. I don't know how much I can say because my coworkers always watch the pod when I'm on it.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
That's how, like, let's be honest, though, that's our conversations when kids aren't around. Like it's very realistic, right? We're not talking about student growth all the time. We have other things that we're talking about.
Ava.
Like it's becoming more real. Like, again, for me, like I've always seen like education within the show. We've talked about it 100 times where it's like, yeah, this really parallels like what I experience on a day-to-day, but also like even those pieces outside of the educational world, just the life of like, how many times like do our kids think like we sleep at the school or like this is our whole life? Like I'm a whole functioning human being outside of what I do for my job. And so like seeing them have these lives is really interesting and I love seeing it. I'm really excited for Oshan and Ava. The confidence and like just how smooth he was, because even when he came back, he's like, I took your advice. Like, no, he didn't. And it was great. And he knew, like, I think like leading up to it, because like, right, they keep coming back to him during the episode and he like was kind of like, okay. I liked when Janine asked him, have you heard of the US Department of Treasury? After she'd asked Ava where she likes to go, and she says the bank, and he's like,
yes,
okay. Like, right? But so it was just this thing where like he saw them as like trying to be helpful, but it was like I'm still going to do this my way,
exactly.
And he knew it was going to work, and like I'm a big Oshan fan right now.
Okay,
I really like Oshan.
It sounds like I'm 1 for 1. Mike, Steph, Oshan, and Ava. How you feeling?
It's funny that Ava in this episode, to me, just by her comments, even though they were comical, actually revealed how damaged she is with dealing with courtship. Or she doesn't really appreciate the slow build of a courtship. She wants it and she wants it now. Or either the reverse of, all right, that's somebody I want because the material items, oh, he's rich, he has this, okay, I'm going to get that, he's going to take care of me, and then it's almost like transactional, so for this to actually be so organic, as in, oh darn, I can't believe I'm feeling him. Darn, she comes off a little brash, but I could holler at her. That's what I got from this episode. But also the funny part to me was it was almost as if Janine was popping up as the relationship elf. She would just come in and her being like the relationship fairy to me was kind of like gold on this episode, but yeah, I could, as for them to be a couple, I can see that because I think he will be a grounding presence for Ava and will allow her to really show her more vulnerable side that we've seen throughout. We've had glimpses of throughout the pretty much throughout the history of Abbott. I think that could be a grounding. And then also the battle of her trying to be her authentic self and him trying to reel her back in. I think that would be an interesting dynamic going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I have a prediction based on like what you said. Like we can see how commitment phobia she is. But we also know from earlier episodes, the relationship with her dad is not there. And that, like, I think we're going to see more as to why Ava is the way she is. You know, we've seen a lot of character growth within her since like season 1. But I'm getting the feeling she's always been like someone who's had to take care of herself and take care of everyone else. And I think one of the reasons why I'm so pro Oshan is that he gives off this vibe of like, he can take care of her without like, not in that like overly like, she doesn't need someone like coming in and like saving the day. She needs a partner like that's alongside her. And there's just something very like calming. Again, it goes back to like the confidence he had. Like that's what she needs is like, because I think we're going to see this like commitment phobia thing play up throughout, especially as we learn more. Like, I think we're going to learn more about her and her dad. And I think that's going to play a big role in how she is in relationships. But I think he's a good pairing for her. And so I think it's going to be good. I think we're going to see a lot come from it because I have a feeling she's an anxious avoidant attachment and she's probably going to run at some point. But he doesn't seem like the kind of person that would let her run. And
just adding on to what both of you said, I think vulnerability really is the key word here, because seeing Ava pursue a relationship, pursuing any relationship in Abbott in real life, that requires a certain amount of vulnerability to trust in somebody new who you want to hang out with. I am certain we will revisit our Oshan conversation later. One other question for you both about this episode: fashion. Fashion played a big role in episode 15. If we can quickly go back to Barbara, she actually goes to Ava and says, "Hey, I need a makeover. Will you please help me?" I sent you both this photo of Barbara. It was one of the more shocking moments of the episode. There was a Sweet Cheeks reference that Mr. Johnson brought up. There was even a Flo Rida reference, which I did not have on my 2025 bingo card.
She called him Florida.
Yeah, Barbara says, Ava gave me these jeans. Apparently a guy named Florida talks about it in a song. Hilarious. We'll also have a throwback music reference in the next episode.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that here. But in terms of the fashion, again, in terms of Barbara's, her self-confidence, her identity, what did you both think? Because again, this to me was a reminder of how Abbott brings in these real life topics for educators, for just any person, but they kind of present it in a comedic way. So Barbara, of course, it's funny that she's wearing this outfit that is totally not her, but at the heart of the matter is her trying to figure out her identity. And if anything, Barbara, like Steph, Sarah Beth, Barbara's been presented to us as one of the more self-assured characters from jump. So now seeing her sort of wrestle with, I'm trying to figure out who I am in this next stage of my life as an educator and as a glamma. It's new for us. Sarah Beth, it sounds like this is resonating.
Yeah, I think back just like knowing like educators that like have retired and like they look forward to it. And then it's kind of like, well, what do I do now? Like her whole life has been education. And I think this is the first time where it's like, she's been thinking about retirement, even though I'm really mad at you for that prediction.
We will get to that.
But like, I think it's also just the first time of like, and I think that's the hard thing. I feel like education is one of the careers where like, it does to an extent become your identity in a lot of ways. That like, when you're starting to look at like, wait, am I more than this? Right. And then like realizing like, oh, these kids think I'm 100 years old. Or like, I think the other boy told her he thought she was like 60 something. And she's like, I am poreless. And he goes, yeah, but like you wear the cell phone around your neck. Like sometimes like these kids are just brutal and like they say things and you're like, but I think it was just like that resonation of like how you see yourself in your head, but like how you're being perceived. And so like, yeah, she had a lot of confidence because how she saw herself is how she assumed everyone saw her. And then realizing, especially like this younger generation, like we don't feel old till we're talking to like a 5-year-old. And then we're like, oh,
yikes.
like Like I don't really think about like the like when we talk and we're like, oh yeah, when I was in middle school, and then we do the math and it's like, well, that was like 20 years ago. Like I don't always think about like in that time until I'm trying to talk to a student who says something and I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like
Exactly. It humbles you very,
yes.
very quickly.
Oh, they humble you real quick.
Mike, Steph, before we get out of here, episode 15, that is not done with our recording. Barbara, fashion, thoughts,
her trying
self-discovery.
to have like a youthful makeover was understandable, but somewhat sad at the same time. Like, just to bring it back, to personalize it. Like, I've really over the last couple of years have really embraced my age and wisdom and role as a grandparent, and for this to be spurred, well, should I say, this to be spawned based on the information that she's going to be a grandma. It's relatable because, like, for instance, like my grandkids, they call me Pop, right? And when they would, when we had our first grandchild, it's like, oh, how you gonna feel like when they start talking and call you grandpa? I was like, I don't have a problem with it whatsoever, because that means I've made it to that age that I'm actually a grandparent. So I'm going to take that as as a badge of honor. So if they want to call me grandpa, whatever, like my wife, she didn't want to be called grandma. So my wife's is called Gigi.
Cute.
And then I think their grandmother from their mother's side, they call her Gram. But both of them refer to themselves as glammas. Same thing.
That's a
yeah,
thing.
That that instantaneous. I'm like, oh wow, but it's that type of mindset of, oh my God, I'm having a grandchild, which is great, but then it's like your mortality is thrown in your face, like I'm a grandparent. Like my oldest at times to try to tweak me, even though he calls me Papa one time, he's like, hey grandpa, and then he have like a little smirk on his face, and I'm like,
say what?
okay. I don't feel away, but
yeah.
But also darn, it was one thing. But yeah, the makeover, I got it, but like y'all mentioned, it belied the confidence that she's shown throughout the history of Abbott for her to, like, of all people, go to Ava for a makeover. I mean, this is the same person that was trying to give Janine tips back in the day when she started.
And that flipped on this episode. Yeah. Janine also gave her advice, and Barbara said, you know what, Janine? You've really improved on giving advice. I needed this. Thank you. That's a real shift.
And the last part I would say is when one of the children said that her diction lets them know how old she is, and I'm like, you know what? That is totally correct, because people from a prior era, they talk a certain way. So even though they might not, quote unquote, look the age, the way they present themselves, especially the way they talk and the vernacular that they use, lets us know, okay, they're not from here. They're from the golden age.
Yep.
So yeah, so it was very intricate. It was very intricate. Like, as much now, since we're talking about it, as much as I gave this episode slack, the more we delve deeper into it, I'm like, okay, if you really read between the lines and not look at everything at face value, yeah, I give it maybe a couple levels up.
I love these two. That's exactly how I was hoping this conversation would go. I'm also very happy that Mr. Johnson got his belt buckle at the end of the episode. Ava has this extraordinary closet next to her office, and Mr. Johnson got his Cowboy Carter moment. And I could think of nothing more than that I want to see than Mr. Johnson ending every episode fulfilled. Okay, so speaking of fulfilled, hopefully you all watching and listening love that episode 15 recap. We are not done. We got to get into episode 16, simply entitled Books. Now, when a parent complains about a book in the library, it leads to a divide between the teachers and parents, forcing the library to be shut down. Melissa finds out her ex-boyfriend Gary is getting married and must confront her feelings toward Captain Robinson. And Gregory looks for a second job. Okay, we are definitely going to put some respect on this episode. There is so much to like, so much of this hit home, and I can't wait to hear what both of you think. The cold open. This is the tie-in from our conversation a few minutes ago. The cold open on this episode is Gregory filling in for an absent colleague, I guess a guest teacher or substitute teacher. They couldn't get someone. Sarah Beth, this is very relatable. We've been there.
Yeah, I've done that more than once.
Yeah, we've totally been there. And Gregory is filling in for, I believe, a music teacher on campus, if I'm not mistaken. So he says, okay, class, let's start with the oldies. And then in rapid succession, the kids say, okay, oldies, Umbrella by Rihanna, a Milli, Lil Wayne, Mr. Eddie, what was having an iPod like? That was hundreds of years ago. So I want to pause there, whether it's the cold open, again, whether it's your overall thoughts on this episode, and then we can kind of break it down. Sarah Beth, how did books land with you?
Overall, good. It was definitely one that like have experienced, right? Like the like wanting books pulled out of the library and like the conversation around that, right? Like, okay, you're a parent who doesn't want your kid reading it. So the librarian said, great. Like, I'll make sure your kid doesn't check out this book. And it was like, well, no kid should be reading it, right? And that's very where we're at within the political climate and those discussions we currently have to have right now, and like how do we present material and things like that. And so like that definitely hit really hard. The cold open hurt my feelings because Eddie was like, and then I think at one point he goes, it came out in 2005, and the kid goes, I was born in 2018, and I was like,
Gregory looks at the camera.
Yeah, there are times like I do the math with my kids, and I'm like, oh, like, yeah, you were born in like 2017, 2016. Like sometimes I'll be like, I've been teaching since before you were born. And that's an insane like phrase to come out of my mouth.
Very humbling. I think
it's very humbling. The last two episodes were a little humbling for me at different moments.
Those were some of our prime years. That Umbrella, a Milli era. Those were some good times. And
it happens all the time. Like when I'm trying to pick music to play in the class, my kids are really into like Snoop Dogg right now and Eminem. Yeah. Which we don't play in class because I would get in a lot of trouble.
Just to confirm. Yeah. Okay. In case anyone was worried. Okay.
I did have Snoop on the Stoop I don't do Elf on a Shelf. And also like Snoop on a Stoop doesn't have to move. Like, was part of it. Like my kids like every day they come in and they're like, did Snoop move? And I'm like, no.
Your kids are into Snoop and M. I was thinking Harry Styles.
Nope.
Olivia Rodrigo.
Like they're into the old because it's what mom and dad are listening to at home and stuff.
Which the kids say in this cold open. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so, but it's like this funny where I'm like it is this like wild, right? Like I remember growing up on like my dad listening to the classic rock station. So it was a lot of like Tom Petty and the Eagles, and it seems so long ago. And I have this argument all the time with my friends over divorced dad rock and whether or not divorced dad rock constitutes like Nickelback and Creed. And I get into these huge arguments about it.
Divorced dad rock is crazy. And we're definitely going to put that in the episode description.
Great. I love it. So like when my friends are like, hey, divorced dad rock, I'm like, Creed, Nickelback, right? Like what divorced dads listened to in the late 90s, early 2000s. And my friends are like, no, like Blink 182. And I'm like, and my friend looks me in the eye and he goes, Sarah, all your friends now are dads. It's what your friends are listening to is divorced dad rock. And I'm like, no.
Can we get some Green Day? Does Green Day make the playlist?
Green Day is divorced dad rock.
Creed had some hits though.
They did.
Boulevard of Broken Dreams is my jam.
Yeah, I know.
My daughter was shocked. She was like, "What you know about Green Day?" I'm like, "I learned it by listening to you."
And the shirts were at Hot Topic. That was a whole era
back in the day.
Oh
so sorry, I totally derailed us. Love
that was great.
I pulled up my playlist. I'm gonna go down a whole list of stuff that I'm listening to right now. Go ahead.
Okay, Sarah Beth.
I'm trying to think what else happened in this episode.
Oh no, you're right on this episode in terms of books. I was just reading an article today on the front page of the Arizona Republic. It was spotlighting a story in Higley Unified School District out in Gilbert here in Arizona. And it was exactly about this topic and book banning and how a parent in a junior English class took issue with the teacher's assignment where students could choose from 5 different novels. One was The Hate You Give. There were a bunch of other ones. And surprisingly, the grandparents of a student took issue not with Angie Thomas's The Hate You Give, but with another selection that allegedly, according to the grandparents, is promoting, promiscuity and underage drinking and all these things. And the district is having a whole review of texts and what can be included, what should be banned. So another example of Abbott really having a strong gauge of what the temperature is in education. So much so that as I was preparing for, chopping it up with you two, I'm reading a story on the front page of the state's largest paper about said topic and what can be allowed to be consumed by students and what shouldn't.
Yeah. And I think what's cool about it is how they presented it, right? They presented it because then Tyreek comes in, right?
Yeah. Yes, he does.
He wants the book in there. And so then they're trying to figure out, like, how do we make these two stakeholders happy? And which then leads to the PTO meeting. And so, like, I think what was nice about it, it wasn't just like, hey, this is our view, this is what everyone should, but then the discussion that came around it, right? Because now you have all these parents that want all these different books. And then I can't think of her name, but the mom realizing, right, her concerns about the book were that, like, it really teaches
Crystal.
kids to be disrespectful.
Which Crystal,
a lot of people have not liked Harry Potter for that same reason. Junie B. Jones, like, a lot of classics have come under fire for that, right? Because the kids are being disrespectful. But then the conversation came like, oh, I guess I really didn't know what this book was about. Like, yes, that is a piece of it. But then when they talked about, like, oh, it teaches growth mindset and, like, all these things. And I think one of the cool things too, I love that parent because she looks like a parent, like, forget it was season 2 when she came in, where they thought she didn't care because of her nice tattoo.
Yes.
And I just love when she's like, I'm a Christian with the B word across her chest. Like, it's so like, it's very parallel. And, like, she does care, right? It wasn't, she wanted what was best for kids, right? And that's the reality is these stakeholders genuinely believe they want what's best for kids. But we don't always have a conversation about how do we do what's best. It's just, this is my opinion. This is how it should be. This is how the school should be run. This is what you should be doing. And I think what was nice was that because they led it through to, like, having it be a meeting and, like, let's discuss, then they were able to come to a solution where all the stakeholders are happy. I think what's hard right now is we're not having those conversations because everyone's so polarized. You either want books banned or you don't, versus, like, having a conversation around those pieces. So
and are we for secret speakeasy sections in libraries? That was also
that was hilarious.
It was so hilarious. Yeah. Okay. I want to share with you two my favorite quote from this episode, and Mike, then I want to pass the baton to you to get your thoughts. Obviously, I was really taken aback by Ava's quote in episode 15, but the quote that really stuck with me from this 2-pack was, as you pointed out, Sarah Beth, Crystal, Tamika's mom, vice president of the PTO, in the library at the beginning of the episode, speaking to Ava and Barbara. And she says, and I quote, I'm going to read this verbatim. I know what you guys are thinking. How can a busy bitch like myself also find time to be a perfect mom? And I don't know. I said, oh my God. Again, Abbott is really, they're just not pulling back this season. And I'm kind of here for it. Crystal was an invaluable piece of this episode. I think she's such a great character. Mike, Steph, how did this episode land with you? Books.
Before I get into that, how do y'all feel about the direction or the toe in the water to see exactly, okay, can we get away with that? Should we go a little bit further? How do you feel about this? I wouldn't say newfound direction because they've already implied, but for it to just really just go there. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like they should continue progressing in that in that direction, or it's like, okay, it's good for here and there, but don't make this a regular thing?
You must be a podcast host, Mike. That's a great question. Sarah Beth.
I think it depends on how it gets written out. Like, I would hate to see any of the characters become characters of themselves, right? Like, where, like, I think back, like, Boy Meets World is a really good example where the Eric Matthews started out, like, early seasons, he was actually pretty, like, he was the smarter older brother. And then just over time, they just dumbed him so far down that, like, by the end of it, like, he was just a character of a character that he had been. And so I think because, you know, like I said earlier, like, that is teaching. You know, I have parents that say some out of pocket stuff. And, like, you know, as teachers, those are the conversations we're having when children aren't around. And so I think there's a realness to it. But I think they have to be careful that they're not turning anyone into a character to get the laughs. Like, if you're just doing it to get the laughs, it can serve a time and place occasionally, but, like, if you're making it as, like, part of this, like, character development, right? Like, because there's something very real about, like, Ava making that comment about, I don't want you to ask me about myself. I want you to tell me what you're going to do to me, because, like, that shows us where she stands, like, with, like, commitment and things like that and how that's going to play in later versus, and same thing, like, with Crystal, right? Like, it is really funny, but we also see this, like, growth and, like, how we judged her early on, right? She's got to be a parent. She seems abrasive. She seems like, you know, most people who don't make great decisions have that on, you know, have the B word tattooed across their chest. And so, like, but, like, seeing, like, oh no, she is a mom who truly does care and is, like, volunteering in those pieces. Same thing with, like, Tyreek. Like, yes, he's a very himbo of a character, but he also does really care and, like, is trying. And so I think it just depends on how it gets played out. I think they can toe that line because they have that audience, but I'd hate to see it lose the, like, substance that it has.
It's a great point, Sarah Beth. So I love it for a few quick reasons. Number one, Abbott ultimately is a comedy. It's real, but ultimately they are in the business of laughs. Secondly, I think about the people in my life who I know watch Abbott, and I don't know that any 7th or 9th graders are watching. It breaks my heart. I wish more of them would, but I find that it's typically grown folks like us.
Mhm.
It's typically college students. So I don't know that, you know, you are sort of muddying the waters for younger kids if you're, you know, you have insinuating statements or you're using profanity. And to your point, Sarah Beth, it does give a sense of realness. Like, this is just how people talk, you know, and you could be professional and, you know, in front of kids, particularly when you're with your colleagues, though. Yeah, you may be a little, maybe a little more spicy in that regard. So it's certainly jarring. It was for me on both of these episodes, but I like that the powers that be are taking chances and they trust that we can be a little bit spicy. Ultimately, if, as Sarah Beth said, we're not leaning into caricatures, but then number two, you know, there's real substance at the heart of all of these episodes. Yeah, there's a funny quote, but ultimately leaving books, what I'm thinking about are book bans across the nation, are how do we support teachers, the importance of communication between parents and staff at schools, all in service of doing what's best for kids. So for me, it's not just sort of a laugh tape of, oh, here's this outlandish thing Ava said or Tamika's mom said. It's just, I think it kind of gives levity to, you know, some of these really important larger topics that the show is addressing. So I'm here for it. I laughed, and I don't think it's doing harm whatsoever. How about you, Mike?
No, I mean, I hear both your points. I guess the reason why that just popped in my mind at this time was a couple of episodes ago where you had, like, I'm not, I can't remember if it was the cold open with Jacob and the two students, and the two students calling him the B word, and he was like, "Listen,
Right?
yeah,
I didn't like that. I didn't like that.
That one just seemed so out of
I agree.
out of left field, and to a lesser degree, well, this is something I didn't have a chance to speak about, which I didn't come up in our conversation about that particular episode, but dealing with Jacob's sexual orientation, and for that to be what was said to him,
yeah,
it was almost like a double, like, all right, darn, that was kind of low-hanging fruit. Plus, you know, you can kind of imply a little bit something extra out of it. That was the queasiness of it for me. Like, Abby, like y'all could do better than that. Y'all know how to do things more nuanced than that. You know, so for that to happen, and then for these little incidents that happen in these 2 episodes, while it's not the same context, it was just like, okay, I see the last couple episodes you're going down a path that I'm not sure you really want to go down further, because you do take the chance of cheapening the instances that when you want to put something out there for shock, you know. So that's what made me come up with the, you know, try to delve a little deeper into how y'all felt about those things.
I forgot about that scene, Mike. That's a great point. That is one case that I did not enjoy. It just seems so unrealistic to me that students would do that. And I agree with you. I had a concern there. These 2 worked for me, but I agree with you and Sarah Beth that I think Abbott and, you know, Quinta Brunson and those who call the shots just have to be very mindful of how they're doing it, because it does seem like they're leaning into something new in these moments. But I hope it's more of these 2 and not students calling Jacob out of his name for laughs, because I didn't find it funny. I thought it was a bit cringe.
Yeah, it was crass. You know, it's like, come on, yeah. I mean, listen, you go. There's ways to poke at Jacob for you know, a myriad of things. That one, it was like, you know, you're really close to going to my thing, touching the third rail. Like, you know, maybe you shouldn't go that close.
Right.
You know, but as for the overall episode, you know, it was okay. I have this one thing that Tyler will appreciate this comparison. Is Tyreek the Max Caster of Abbott Elementary?
We got to get Sarah Beth onto some professional wrestling. That's an apt comparison, Mike Steph. Yeah. Totally. for those who don't watch professional wrestling, Max Caster, performer in All Elite Wrestling, the second biggest company in the States. His shtick is very similar. He's a rapper, but also a wrestler. He doesn't win very much, so he's also a total jokester and is just very, very, very out there. Mike Steph, it's a great look. I completely agree with you. But Mike is happy with that. Okay. So the second part of this I want to get to, and by the way, the book in question on this episode, The Sassy Wizard Kid, by the end, it all comes full circle. The parents seem to be down with it. Like you said, Sarah Beth, the librarian reads it aloud. Jacob is really feeling it. And then Jacob actually has a really good quote by episode's end. He clearly loves this book. He says to himself, allies should be seen and not heard.
Yes.
That's right. It's like, okay, this is what we like. This is what we want more of. The second part of this episode that I want to ask you two about, and again, this is what really hits home and kind of touches on the pulse of education, the joys, and then also the perils. Our guy, Gregory Eddy, on this episode is looking for a part-time job to supplement his income. Janine catches him on LinkedIn in the break room looking for part-time work. And I have known so many educator friends who have to add a part-time job, whether in the summer, whether during the school year. One of my best friends who's an educator was doing DoorDash on the side. So teaching from school hours and then doing DoorDash after. Again, not out of a want to diversify their resume, simply to make ends meet. It's often a concern that I hear all the time from prospective students and families is the compensation piece. So I'd love to hear what you both thought about Gregory Eddy. He's made a lot of gains in since we were introduced to him, including his traps. The man he's rocking the Schmedium shirts and continues to do so. But also we're seeing those moments of vulnerability from him where, okay, he has his partner, he's a great educator at the school, but then he's also like, man, I'm feeling pressured and I have a master's degree and I feel some shame with needing to pick up part-time work to pay the rent. Sarah Beth, what say you?
I mean, it's like the reality of teaching, especially like Arizona, we're underfunded and not compensated. Like there's always that misunderstanding that like we're paid for summers and we're paid for winter breaks. And no, I'm paid on 200 days, I think, because we get like the professional development days and stuff. And so like I'm paid for the days I work. I'm not paid for that additional time. Yes, Marana's really nice and they let us like opt for like 12-month checks, so I don't have to like save for the 3 months I'm not getting paid. But like, yeah, like I know so many teachers that are working an extra job. I'm teaching after school academies. I teach summer school every year, and I'm in a better position. I was very lucky when it came to college that it was taken care of. When I went back and got my master's, I had saved up prior. So like, I'm very lucky in that aspect, and I recognize the privilege I have. But like, I know many educators that don't have that privilege, or something happened. You know, they were making ends meet and their partner died. And so now they're working a second job because their job doesn't pay for the life, especially if they have kids or whatever. And so, and then, you know, like his was very real, like rent just went up, you know, like he was probably doing okay, but like our raises don't match the cost of living increase. Like, and they don't even come close. Like it just becomes that very real. I did think the one funny part though was when he was like, and I have a girlfriend, and Janine goes, that's weird. I'm saving money. Oh,
I wonder how.
That was like really funny, like real, because it wasn't, because she was like really confused. And I was like, oh.
And I knew, speaking of their dynamic in this episode, I knew, I'm sure much like you two did, near the end of the episode in the library when Janine is trying to get the pizza delivery person to come inside, I instantly knew, I guess this is a unintentional flex. I instantly knew, that's her man's. That's Gregory not wanting to come in because he doesn't want colleagues or families to see that he's delivering pizzas.
It took me a minute only because I thought they were like in school hours. I didn't
that was
didn't quite put two and two that it was like an after school meeting or a weekend.
Sure.
So I was really confused because I'm like, how is he delivering pizza during? I'm like, did he leave during his plan?
During the prep hour to leave the pizza boxes on the curb. I'm going to leave them on the curb. I can't come in. Yeah.
Because by like the second text, I was like, I think that's Gregory, but they're in school. What is he like? I got a little confused there. I was like, that has to be him.
How is the delivery man texting Janine? Like through the app?
Oh yeah. Well, and wasn't it Tariq gave his phone to Janine?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the means? And then his screensaver was him and Obama, which
That's
I thought was a great
Photoshop.
A great touch, great Photoshop, not real.
Yeah, but like it's very real, and it's a frustrating, especially like when you do have a master's. It's hard to be like, I have a master's and I have to do the second job. Also, like, you know, it becomes very humbling, and it's a hard thing, you know, when you go into a service-based profession, like you have to have all this education to do it, and then you're not properly like compensated, and then having to, and I forget who said it earlier in the episode where they're like, you're already working full time and you're adding another job. Like you're already doing all this during your day and you're going to add something else to it. But like it's necessity. And like, that's the hard thing is that, you know this, we got to properly fund education. I don't know how else to say it.
We do. Continues to be a topic on Abbott.
But it is real. Like so many teachers are working multiple jobs and.
Right. Mike, Steph, the kind of thread we have here of just trying to make it in America, and you having an incredible wife who works at a school, is familiar with the education system. What did you make of this part of the episode through the lens of Gregory?
Actually, mine's more of an opposite thing because since my wife has started working in the educational system, you know, in the school, everything, it's been more of a raise for her.
Let's go.
So, good.
Love that.
It's one of those things, like, not to get too much into it, but me and my wife, we just celebrated our 26th year of marriage. So for years, her goal has been to lessen the load off me. Mm-hmm. You know, even though I just refused to take the help, she's like, "No, babe. Well, guess what?" And so when she got offered this position, and this is her first salary-based job, so she signed the contract and everything. And she's like, "Babe, look," and I'm like, it just melted my heart, and that kind of actually has helped me in the back of my mind of, okay, I'm not an overtime person. Like my career, my job, so to speak. I work for the city or whatever, but it's one of those jobs like I want to do my 8 hours. I want to do my 40 hours a week. I really don't want to be there on my day off. I want to do a double. And for the most part, budget here and there, or look, I know what I'm getting and I'll make it work. Now, over the last couple of years with my wife working where she's working, is like, okay, even if we're short, or if I perceive myself to be short, it's like, duh, your babe, she you know, she's making what she's making. Like, we can kind of make things work without it being solely on me to be stressed. Like, oh my God, all right, now I'm gonna have to start doing these doubles. Like I said, not to get too far off the track. Like when my daughter was going to college, my two middle children, they went to college. So my son, he went to college, and I paid his tuition and so forth. And then the way I had it set up was, okay, because they're like 2 years apart. So pretty much I was going to have both of them in college at the same time. My salary being what it was or what it is, we get very limited financial aid. So I was like, okay, fine. I'll pull from this. I'll pull for that. I'll take care of it.
We'll make it work.
Now, when my daughter went to college, since I pulled twice from, let's say, the drawer of where I got the extra income from, I was like, okay, I have to do overtime. So literally, I paid my daughter's tuition strictly on overtime, which was after 15 years. I wasn't used to that, but it was like, well, what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell my daughter, no, I can't send you away to college. No, you can't stay on campus because daddy just doesn't feel like working an extra day a week. You know, it was what it was. So, like I said, my mindset is kind of reversed. Like, I see how it's affecting a lot of people, and tell you the truth, going into the grocery store, or should I say going to the supermarket, the last couple of days, I'm looking, and now a 2-liter soda is like $3.75. When last month it was $2.25, $2.50. I'm like, okay, it's just about to hit the fan. No matter my situation or my wife's situation, we're probably going to end up needing more income, or we're going to have to make sure that we budget accordingly so we're not up.
Yeah, you got to
be
smart about it, right?
Fortunately, I got a cruise that I got to end up paying for. But after that, we're going to get everything back together.
We still ball. We ball. Yeah.
But no, the bottom line, it was distressing that a teacher with the qualifications of Mr. Eddie, remember, he was in line to be a principal. That's his qualifications. And he chose, like, you know what, I'm good, fine. I'm going to be, I'm happy. I'm happy being a teacher. Now it's to the point of, okay, now not only does he have one side job, he has DoorDash, he has Uber, car share, and he has a teaching profession.
That's right.
A
lot. That leads to burnout.
Tough.
We know
that's
this.
Tough.
Yeah.
And I think it plays into like what you were saying, like being at the grocery store and how everything just keeps jumping. And that's the situation he's in. He was doing okay, and now all of a sudden he's not. And I think that's where I think really anyone right now can relate, whether you're an educator or not, is that a lot of us were doing really okay, but everything just keeps rising and our salaries aren't rising. Whether we're salary or not, we're not getting a cost of living increase that's helping to like mitigate. And so a lot of us are in that position of going from like, I'm overly qualified, like I'm still going to do what I need to do to get it done. But when you've been able to go for so long without having to, and now all of a sudden I have to through no fault of your own, right? Like it's a very hard, humbling like thing. You got to do what you got to do to make ends meet. But it's hard when you were making ends meet.
And then just like that, it's like, oh yeah, that's not good enough.
And that's how it feels right now, right? Like any little thing is going to be that like thing that,
one medical emergency, one car breakdown. Sure.
Yeah, like this past month, we had like a little celebration month between our anniversary and my wife's birthday, and we went out of state for another birthday or whatever. And at the end of the month, I'm like, oh, it looks like I unintentionally overextended myself. Like this is crazy.
Been there.
And just 6 months ago, it was like, okay, you know, but then by end of the month, I'll put everything back together. Now it's like, all right, now it looks like I might be running at a deficit. All right, decisions need to be made. You know, it's really sad, and it's going to be taxing on the society at large, and things are going to get worse, unfortunately, before they get better. So it's really going to be incumbent on us as individuals or as family units to pull together and like, okay, it can't be everybody pulling in their own direction. You know, you might be grown, you might have your own situation, but we have to really be the whole definition of a community to take care of what we need to take care of. So myself included, like, well, shoot, that's why I'm brainstorming right now as I'm speaking.
Well said, you two. Okay, let's get into fan theories. Okay.
Oh,
can I interest you both? Oh, Mike, Steph.
We're actually missing the biggest elephant in the room of this episode.
Please,
my baby.
Oh my gosh! Yes,
my baby Melissa. Like, how can we not speak about
Melissa Chimenti?
I know I kind of, but yeah.
No, that Sarah Beth, Mike, Steph, I concede the floor to you both. Melissa Chimenti, her exes, but now she's got a boo who she wants to commit. Sarah Beth.
I love that when we talked about this, I think it was the last time I was on the pod, her and Ava, because it was when they were like heisting the truffles at the golf, like the parallels between her and Ava. Because right, she's like, well, it's just casual. And then
it continues.
Like, and I knew as she was saying that, I was like, this is going somewhere, right? Where she's not going to want it to be casual. Like, she's telling everyone. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to the symphony. And it was just funny watching her like be in the lounge, right? And she's like throwing that fit where she's like, it's a terrible whatever kind of day this is. And then he's like, wait, go back. Why are you mad? And I was like, oh, you're mad because you do. And I was like, oh, I do want more with him. And so it was cool seeing that. I love that when he showed up and he's like, I'm a single like fire marshal or whatever. Like, you're not the first one to like pull a fire alarm to get me my answer.
Firefighter Bay was he was talking that talk. That's exactly what he said verbatim, Sarah Beth.
And I love how like you could tell it was like a conversation she was clearly stressed about, and like his response basically was like, great, I don't want to go to the symphony anyways. Like he said, I don't like music anyways. Which is like a kind of a wild thing to say. Like
it was. And even earlier, Sarah Beth, Melissa, I'm so glad you brought this up, Mike, Steph. Melissa says, Barb, this is going back to our previous conversation about side work. Barb used to teach night school and I used to be a pool shark.
That's right.
Melissa, I know she's both of your favorite character for a reason. I think this episode really exemplified all the reasons why she is such a pivotal aspect of the show.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Mike, Steph, how are you feeling about your boo?
I think questions need to be asked, and I think they were answered. Like, does she have a fear commitment? Because everything was okay until all of a sudden one of her past flames moved on. It was like, oh, okay. It's almost like she felt like she was playing musical chairs and she was the one that's left without the chair. So it's like, okay, I got to get real. Like, and does she only want commitment based on her time? You know, and if that's the case, why do we think that's okay? Like, you know, like y'all were saying, Melissa scheming to get the firemen to the school to confess her feelings was cute. You know, just you know, it also once again, like we was talking about, it also very parallels Ava, as in she wants what she wants based on her parameters. She doesn't want to be. Doesn't want to feel the need of. She wants to do it on her terms, and which is great. But at the same time, if you're not flexible or you're not, you know, you're not able to kind of roll with the punches, then what happens if the fireman felt that way? Was where maybe he was set in his own ways, like, you know what, she doesn't want to give an inch, I'm not going to give an inch.
Yeah.
Where would that have left Melissa? Evidently, she really cared about him. She just didn't want to let him know that she cared about him.
Vulnerability.
It was
vulnerability. I think it goes back to like Ava and Melissa are very like strong, right? And again, we know a little bit like she comes from that like very loud Italian family that has a lot of like judgment and pressure on her, right? Like her and her sister are constantly fighting, and it's this like having to be the best in how they're perceived. And so I think part of it is that it's vulnerability, but it's also that like if I'm in control of the situation, I know how it's going to end. So it's like there's probably like a fear of like abandonment or like rejection, right? So like if I keep you at arm's length, you can't leave me.
Yeah.
Like I can't be hurt if I'm keeping you like far enough away. And I think that's where some of it plays in, is that like if it's just casual, my feelings aren't going to get hurt until she realized your feelings can still get hurt if it's just casual. And so I think there's that, again, like similar to Ava, like we're seeing this like growth of like these two very strong, independent women who, for whatever reason, have had to be that way for the majority of their life. And now they're realizing they want a partner to help them with that versus doing it all on their own. But they also don't know how to do that because it's really hard. You know, like my running joke, like, is I don't ask for help. We're actually sitting and we're hiring a new associate principal. And so one of the associate principals, their candidates was like, what are you looking for in AP? And I was like, so here's the thing, like, you need to know about me. I'm not the person to ask help. So if I am asking for help, like, no fault of your own, like you should have been there 10 days ago. Like by the time I'm at the point, like if I ever, like I can count on one hand how many times I've radioed because like a kid is like out of control. Like it's got to be bad. Like if you hear me radio to be like, hey, I need you down in my room, you should have been here 10 minutes ago. And that's not your fault. I didn't say anything 10 minutes ago. But like, it's one of those where I'm like, hey, you just kind of have to know this about me. Like, so I'm looking for an AP who can like be aware and know when to offer help because I'm not good at asking for it. And I know that's why I love Shamenti as much as I do. Like I see a lot of myself in her. And so like, I think that's part of it. Like she doesn't want to ask for help because there's that fear of like being rejected.
Well said, you two. Okay. Fan theories. Can I interest you both in the possibility of O'Shawn being a double agent? Meaning, hear me out, potential fan theory. And by fan theory, I mean my theories. Maybe O'Shawn has nefarious intentions. And listen, I probably blame this on me seeing too many Tyler Perry movies over the years and TV shows. When you get a guy, this light-skinned guy, who is wholesome and very handsome, they typically have ulterior motives. I'm not happy about it. I don't want this for O'Shawn or for Ava, but fan theory. Is O'Shawn a double agent? This means he could be working for Gerard Creek. Maybe he just is a rogue agent. Can I interest you at all, Mike, Steph?
You know, I'm proud of you, Ty. I swear, that's something that would have came out my toy box. I love that. I love that about you. You know, shoot, you took it to Tyler Perry. Wow.
I've seen a lot.
Oh, shoot. Shamar Moore?
I've seen some things, Mike, Steph. Do we think this is a potential end point for O'Shawn, or are we not buying that possibility whatsoever? Just theory.
It's a possibility. I'm going to choose to err on the side of positivity and feel like he is what he is. But at the same time, just the fact of how accommodating he was to help them with their illegal activities from jump makes you wonder. But if any, I don't know.
Come on, Mike, Steph. Come on. You see it too, or no? Okay.
But I think, you know what? I'll say this before it comes out goes out my mind. Remember when Ava was talking to the office worker, right? About whether or not she should talk to him or what have you. And the office worker's like, yeah, or I'm gathering information. Why was that said?
Right.
Was that a red herring?
What did you say? I'm building my case?
Yes. Was that a red herring? Because this is just a random, it wasn't a one-off. She said that for a reason.
And the librarian, I forget which episode this was, noted it was probably books, obviously, the bean bags that were given by the golf course. We just get these little droppings of, oh,
Mhm.
remember, that's still lingering over us. And I think one of the
She
future
makes the comment
episodes,
about the closet too.
the closet.
And
Yeah,
her
Sarah
when
Beth.
Barbara comes to her for the clothes, she makes the comment about like this was just installed courtesy of whatever the
Right.
lawyer's name was. She used the lawyer's name. She didn't say Gerard Creek.
So, audience, just in case you forgot, that's still looming over. I know the next two episodes after these two, one of them is called Audit. It's karaoke this coming week on March 12th. And then on March 19th, there's Audit. So, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying that continues to loom over us. Sarah Beth, O'Shawn, double agent.
I
Yes or
am
no?
like kind of processing it still, I'm gonna be honest, because never in a million years did I think that that could be a fan theory. Like I could see it happening. I think I just so badly don't. I just want Ava to like find a like good. I feel like it would be so devastating to her and her character development if he does turn out to be a double agent. Because I think it would undo a lot of the progress we've seen from her.
Yes.
And that
Absolutely.
she could go back to her old ways more. Because it would like prove to her, right? Like if I'm vulnerable to someone, they're gonna hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to see her character development undone. So I need your fan theory to be wrong. But I'm also really mad about your other fan theory about Barbara most likely playing out right now. So
the other fan theory is, and we've discussed this on previous episodes, but it's never more relevant than now. Barbara is definitely retiring by season's end. No.
Probably by season's end. I'm wondering though if I think she's going to come back. I think that played part of it, right? Where it was like, well, I can't watch the kid every day. So I think we're still going to see her pretty regularly, whether that's like as like a weekly volunteer or like a substitute or something. I don't think she'll be done, but I do think she's going to retire.
Wow.
I
Like Steph.
I'm trying to err on the side of I don't think she's going to retire yet.
Not yet.
I think it's going to be a thought, and maybe that might be partial cliffhanger for the season. But I think she's more of she's such an anchor for that cast, but probably both on screen and off, that I can't really see that dynamic change without her. Yeah, because she kind of holds everybody somewhat accountable, and for Melissa to be pretty much the only. This is not even a shade, but be the only senior figure of stature there. I can't see that. Not yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not just, Barbara just has her Barbara moments. Like you said, Mike, she's pivotal to so many other characters. We've highlighted Barbara's interactions with Janine. I remember on that Gerard Creek episode, Sarah Beth, I forget which one of you were on now. Hopefully you both will always join me for these recaps moving forward. I just want to plant that seed. But she had that interaction with Gregory at Gerard Creek of like, hey, dude, you got to expand your palate. You can only do chicken nuggets and mac and cheese for so long. You have a girlfriend now. Please, let's figure this out. I don't want Barbara to retire. I just wonder, to me, that seems more likely by season's end than O'Shawn being a double agent. I'm not saying I want either of these. These are just theories I wanted to float to you both.
I could see them too having her retire and then immediately bringing her back as like a long-term sub. So like whoever they've hired has like now gone on maternity leave or like I don't think she'll like ever be gone from the show because I think the show needs her too much because they do need that like veteran mentor person, and like Shaminti is it, but she's a different type of mentor, right? Yeah. Shaminti is kind of like the like I'm going to show you how to break the rules or like toe the line because and we've had this discussion on the podcast, like sometimes you do have to kind of like toe the line to make things work because sometimes you have to do what's best for the kids and not everyone wants to hear that. But sometimes you do have to do it like Shaminti's way, but like you do need that like grounding figure of, I don't want to say like a moral compass, but a moral compass. Like
Barbara is a moral compass. Yeah. More Cheryl Lee Ralph. She's one of my favorite characters on the show. Mike, Steph, anything you'd like to add before we get into our exit ticket?
No. I think y'all kind of summed it up perfectly. Like, I know for once I'm actually keeping it short, but yeah.
All right, you two. You know how we do it around here. We always close with an exit ticket. I want to start with you, Mike, Steph. Who is your MVP of this Abbott 2-pack recap?
Oh wow, that's a good one. That is really a good one. Even though I had plenty of time to think of it, I'm totally gonna pull something out the rabbit out the hat, and I will say, oh wow. See, I'm going to split. I'm going to split the middle. I'm going to split it. Um, the MVP for 100 day of school. I want to say that was Ava, and for books, I'll actually say it was Tariq,
Wow.
because the dynamic is it was funny. It was almost like Crystal was the antidote to Tyreek's. They were so much on polar opposites, and in a roundabout way, Tariq actually was the voice of reason to me, based on okay, it's there, but they need to be exposed to this. You shouldn't have them so close-minded. I mean, Crystal, yeah, her showing that she's more than what's tatted across her chest. Yeah, that was great. But Tyreek actually doing something for the children and not for his own self-interest. That's why I give it to him.
Say less. Sarah Beth.
Mine are actually very paralleled, similar. One, I just want to give, I think Margaret deserves a little shout out because I thought she was the funniest. But mine is actually O'Shawn. So O'Shawn was always my first when I saw the show notes. I was like, oh, O'Shawn, because it's the way in which, he did not for 1 second change who he is to Askey about, right? He didn't even consider it. Even when Janine and Gregory are telling him all these things, and he's just kind of entertaining them, but it's not like he's oh, maybe he's just kind of okay, whatever. He went and he stayed true to who he was because he had that confidence, and because I'm not going to buy into the double agent theory right now. And then mine's actually Crystal for the second one, because she was able to admit she went in with such a strong opinion, and then when she was presented with alternate and I think people need to see that it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be realize your opinion changes when you're presented. This is the conversation I have with my kids all the time, because we're doing opinion writing and perspective. Your opinion and your perspective changes when you're presented with new evidence. She made her decision based on what she knew about these books. And then when she got new evidence, instead of doubling down, she said oh, maybe we should give it a try. And then she did give it a try and realized she really liked the book series. And so that's why Crystal's my other one, because I don't think we see that enough of and it wasn't, it wasn't a shame thing. It wasn't oh, Crystal, see, we told you. There was no entitlement. It was just kind of it was a learning and a growing moment, which is what life is about. And so she got to see it. She changed her opinion. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't oh, see, we told you were wrong, or and so I think that we need to see more of that kind of representation of you can have your beliefs, but your beliefs, it's okay if they change. Whether that's in a day or 10 years from now, you don't have to hold on to them so tightly.
Exactly.
I think I'm a perfect example of this, because I came into this recording thinking one way about these 2 episodes, and I end thinking totally different. So yeah, so the more you know.
Yeah.
It comes full circle. Very compelling cases by you both. I will choose one MVP for both these episodes, or one MVP in total. I got to go with Janine Teagues. She was such an anchor. Yeah, I said it, Mike Steph. She was such an anchor for these two. Hear me out. For Barbara, as we highlighted many minutes ago, earlier in the episode, she was an anchor for Barbara as Barbara was going through her sort of, self-identity. I don't know if I want to say crisis, but she was there for her. And then in the second episode, She was there for her mans. Do you remember when Gregory was revealed to be the pizza delivery driver? And she said at the front office, she told Gregory, hey, man, communication. Remember, we're in a partnership and, I would appreciate if you would communicate this with me. And he got it. So to me, Janine was batting 1,000 on these 2 episodes. I thought she was by far the MVP. I hear the case for Oshawn. I hear the case for Melissa. But to me, Janine was the anchor of these 2. I'm so proud of her. And she's just Janine Teagues. Come on now. She's my MVP.
I think that's personal bias.
That's personal bias.
Yes. You
I had
for
the
Quinta
same
Brunson or for
you was
Janine?
mesmerized by the curls in the hair. Yeah.
I thought
I was having the same thought, Mike.
Yeah, and you see.
Wow.
See?
Okay. Clearly,
I wasn't gonna say
It's
it.
gonna backfire on you. I'm telling you right now.
Okay. Clearly,
Me and Sarah all the way.
we've been recording.
Tyler's
for
never
entirely
letting
too
both of us
long.
on again at the
No,
same
no,
time.
See, he's already talking about. We've been recording.
We've been recording too long. Clearly.
Yeah. This is the second week in a row I got this from him. Yeah, I think we should wrap the episode right now.
Production team,
what you think,
please.
because 4AZ was gonna be different.
Production team.
You want me? You know who I am. You know what you get.
I do.
Exactly.
Okay.
I don't care if Revolution is on or not.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. This is a great cliffhanger, actually. What could happen on the next 4AZ? Who knows?
A lot.
We will. A lot is the answer, Mike Steph. We will be back in 2 weeks. Before we officially sign off, Sarah Beth, Mike Steph, thank you so much for joining for this super 2-pack recap. Follow Sarah Beth at Dear Sarah Beth. Follow Mike Steph at Mike_Steph. Be sure to follow the show for exclusive updates and more at 4AZ Teach. Sarah Beth, Mike Steph, anything we need to address before we get out of here?
Not that I can think of. I really enjoyed chatting with you both, though, about Abbott. It was a good time. It was a great idea, Mike.
Thank you. No, I wish you're super cool. You're super awesome. Like it was great. I knew it was going to be that way, but at the same time, for it to come to fruition and for us to actually have it on screen or audio, that the dynamic is as good as I thought it was going to be. Yeah. A1. So I can't wait for two more weeks. Yeah. It's going to be the Sarah and Mike versus Tyler show.
Yeah.
Okay, we're officially wrapping up.
No, we're not.
I love you both. I love you all for tuning in. Let us know your thoughts, your feelings, your predictions in the comments on social. We would love to get your input. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next time.